Welcome to the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast, presented by FantasyGolfBag.com, your number one source for the most in-depth PGA Tour analysis in the daily fantasy and sports betting world. Each week, our experts will discuss everything you need to know, from the course preview and key stats to top plays, fades, and strategies. Whether golf betting, grinding out cash games, or playing for a big GPP win, our team has you covered. Let's get after it.
Welcome to the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast. I'm your host, Redkacheek, joined today by Mr. Axis, and we are going to talk through the new event, new title sponsor, we should say, Charles Schwab Challenge, the old Fort Worth Invitational, the old Dean and DeLuca Invitational, but at a longtime course, Colonial Country Club, a tour favorite, I think, of guys that a lot of guys tend to come back here. Now it's kind of weird with it right after a major, but a very popular golf course on tour, Colonial Country Club, which we'll kind of break down and give you our thoughts. But first off, let me bring in Axis. Big weekend, Mr. Brooks Koepka. I should say probably for Skyler more so. He's a big homer for Brooks Koepka. I think everyone should like him, but man, I think Skyler really had a good Sunday.
It probably wasn't as good as he wished. I think this was the first major that he didn't have money on Brooks. I lucked out. I had no intention of putting money on him, and then I saw, I think it was Eric Patterson on Twitter, tweeted out that Bovada had decided to put up the exacta bets, as they were calling them. So reverse finishes. So I bet DJ and Brooks 50-1. And so I continued my major runs with Brooks. That is 4 majors for Mr. Koepka and 4 winning tickets for me. So I will gladly. And now I feel like come U.S. Open, I have to find a way to bet on him some way.
So short now. 6-1.
Yeah, that's why I did the exacta. And even the 50-1 odds I really didn't think were great. And I didn't even tweet it out because it was just a complete Deegan bet on my behalf because I wanted action on both those guys. I thought DJ was going to win. Like, that was my pick to win. So I didn't bet a normal unit on it, but that was nice to hit something, make some profit on the week considering a heavy favorite won. And it was really sweatless too, considering the lead both of those two, started running away on Sunday. So yeah, I got to watch a lot of it, and I envision like what this tournament was is kind of what I always hoped the U.S. Open is, like difficult. And I know the weather played a large part in that, but either way, difficult, but good shots were still being rewarded. The greens weren't running off like glass tabletops. They didn't look dead. Yeah. So they actually, the rough was long, but it wasn't, you didn't need a sickle to go find your ball in it. Like, that's kind of what I envision and always hope the U.S. Open is. Like, I don't really care that the U.S. Open is always insanely hard. Like, everybody knows it is what it is. We all like to bitch about it, but I feel like this is kind of what I hope for that, though, too. So we'll see what Pebble brings. But yeah, overall, pretty solid weekend.
Brooks played lights out the first 2 days, but for, the overall course, I think it played exactly how they wanted to. And ended up the score being pretty much what everyone kind of pegged. But, yeah. He played lights out Thursday and Friday. And what was interesting, too, was the 63 on Thursday was with pars on both par 5s. He could have had a seriously low round, crazier than 63. But it still felt like a U.S. Open. Like, to me, I kept thinking of it as a U.S. Open. It's kind of closer to the U.S. Open old schedule. But I definitely think the course played similar. It definitely didn't burn out like a Shinnecock we saw last year. It didn't get unfair, quote unquote. But it certainly felt like the difficulty off the tee, like you had to hit fairways. If you bombed it down there and had wedges in, you were rewarded, and you had good shots. Like, the greens were holding pretty well. So I really liked it. I think they did a great job. So excited to see kind of this schedule continue next year and years going forward. But I think it definitely helped with the appeal of the major not being last. Like that last major, British Open's perfect because everyone's going to love the British Open, but the PGA just always felt like a letdown at the end of the year.
Exactly. Like it was squished in, football starting up, it just, it feels like the forgotten child. Like, okay, we go to Augusta to start the year. then you have that shitty break for 2 months before the next major, and then all of a sudden U.S. Open and the Open feel like they're almost back to back, and then you have the WGC. You had, it was at Bridgestone, now it's FedEx, but you had that sandwiched in there, and then they start talking about the playoff, and it's kind of like, oh, there is a fourth major, like oh yeah, let's go let Jason Day win another one, and no one will care, like.
Yeah, I just never liked that. At the end of the year, I mean, it's still a major, but just that you get through the whole season, and it's like, okay, well, we had the Masters, we had the U.S. Open, everyone's excited for. If they go overseas and play the British Open at St. Andrews or whatever nice course, and then here we come back to Kiawah Island for the PGA Championship.
Right.
It just never felt like a major to me, but I'm excited to kind of move forward with that. Again, kudos to Brooks. We'll see 6-1 U.S. Open odds. He's got to be looking pretty good. We'll see him priced at $12,000 probably. So,
jeez, hard pass. Man, yeah, maybe that's how I'll have to get my Brooks action now, is just play him on DraftKings instead of, I can't touch 6.5.
I will say too, the strategy that won the Millie Maker and finished well in every single GPP I saw, which was very interesting, and it honestly, the lineups looked better than I thought they would have when you got such a strong field in like the 9K and 8K range, but they basically stacked Brooks and DJ, and then they jumped all the way down to the low 7s, and then had two or three 6K guys. So they had guys like Matt Wallace, Eric Van Rooyen. It worked out really well. I mean, DJ Brooks to start your lineup sounded crazy. It's looking pretty good for at least one guy.
Yeah, I had a weird week. I only ended up making like 12 lineups. I thought I was going to make more, but I had 2 6 out of 6s, and I don't know. They just seemed stagnant on the weekend, like because of how awful the scoring was. Like if you had anybody shooting even near par, like you had to have just been skyrocketing up leaderboards, because I just held serve basically, and my team was shooting like 20 over combined. So yeah, weird Sunday.
Yeah, and a lot of guys fell back so far on Sunday. So like you could have been cashing pretty heavy on Saturday and just falling completely out of the money. Like I saw a couple guys had 6 of 6 that didn't even cash in some tournaments. Like it just was so bad. I mean, if you had Harold Varner in like showdowns, obviously you didn't do very well, but the guys that had 6 of 6 through the cut seemed like, I guess if you didn't have Brooks or DJ, you're kind of
I had DJ in my 2 6 out of 6s, so that's at least why I was able to hover. But everybody else just sucked. Like,
it got tough, man.
It sure did.
So, all right, let's transition to the Ford focus for this week, and that is the Charles Schwab Challenge. So, I'll give a kind of a little preview here. I'll let you kind of give some of the course stats. We'll tag team this thing a little bit, and then we'll get into our plays, our top plays out of each price range for DraftKings pricing, and see who kind of stands out. It's an interesting golf course, one that has always been traditionally like a old style golf course, but it's playing 7,200 yards. It's par 70. It's not like that short, and it's not really, a bomb and gouge course either. So a lot of guys, you can hit drivers on a lot of holes, but with the dog legs, you see it if you watch PGA Tour live on Thursday, right off hole 10, like guys are having to hit iron or a hybrid off the tee just because they can't go through the fairway. You can't cut the dog leg. There's a little bit of water out there. So it's a very classic style golf course, but it's modern in the sense that you can't really just dink it around like a RBC Heritage. Like I feel like the RBC Heritage is a lot less drivers than here. So I'm curious your take if you want to spiel some stats for us on this golf course the last couple times we've seen it.
Yeah, so for Colonial Country Club, I'm looking at the last just about 1,900 rounds. So I have the average driving distance at 276, the average driving accuracy at 56%, which we briefly spoke about, but pretty strange that the accuracy dips that low considering how short the driving distance is. But then the green regulation percentage pops way back up to 64.5%. So over the last 1,900 rounds, it's played about a quarter stroke above par. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that, as you'll see, has to do with the wind. Justin Rose won at 20 under, I believe, last year. I think when Kisner won, he won at 10 under. So we're down in Texas. If the wind starts howling, then the scores are going to be low, judging by the overall score to par. I'd say more often than not, it's more difficult than it is easy. I know you mentioned Harbor Town. They're very similar in stats, so I don't know. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean they're played the same, but they're within 100 yards in length relative to par. They score about a quarter stroke over. Driving distance is within 5 yards. Driving accuracy is within 4%. The only difference is the greens are easier to hit at Colonial by about 6%. But those two are really the most comparable as far as if you're looking at historical statistics go and comp courses.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious of how you dissect this. Like going through looking at guys that have played well here in the past. You got guys, obviously, you talked about Justin Rose, played phenomenal last year to win. Jordan Spieth won here a few years ago. Kevin Kisner and Zach Johnson, shorter guys on tour. It seems like there's a mix. Jon Rahm has back-to-back top fives here. Like, it doesn't scream off the tee to me. It seems like more position, and it seems like a second shot golf course to me. I mean, with the driving accuracy as low as it is, and the greener regulation numbers still up there, obviously hitting fairways will be beneficial, but it doesn't, with the driving distance down, it's not a driver-heavy golf course, so it seems like a Jon Rahm wouldn't have as much of an advantage. So you see guys like Kisner and Spieth, Zach Johnson, but then you see top finishes from those guys. And then some of the shorter hitters like a Ches Reavie has never played well here, except for like one showing. So I'm curious kind of how you deciphered this golf course, maybe like your key stats or what you're really looking for in your players this week.
Yeah, so I don't know I can't picture, and I didn't look up exactly what the rough is like here, but I have to imagine with as low of a driving accuracy, yet a still relatively high green regulation percentage, I have to imagine it's not that penal when you do miss a fairway. So the focus, I mean, I think you can kind of ignore off the tee for the most part. I know personally I'll be definitely weighing approach the heaviest. And, obviously I want guys who have been playing somewhat decent. Like, I mean, if you've been losing a ton of off the tee, that is some concern. But
yeah,
I think the last 25-ish rounds, or for us it'd be our last 10 tournaments. I'm going to be keying in on those, mixing them with the season long approach as well, and that'll be the main focus.
I still include off the tee. I think that's a staple every week, and unless you have a strong argument against it, I think it should be a staple every single week, just because it's a pretty good predictive element in golf stats, and it's fairly stable. Like, we see guys tend to lead that category year after year, or at least finish well in it year after year, week after week even. So I think approach is more of a shorter term stat. So looking at guys in the last 5 tournaments, like you said, strokes gained approach doing pretty well against the field. So I did add in birdie or better. I've been trying to do that a little bit too, especially on courses like Justin Rose getting a 20 under last year certainly was a birdie or better type of golf course, but we've seen scores like 10 under. It kind of depends on the wind, I guess. But I like throwing in birdie or better because it looks like guys that have those opportunities can capitalize going into this event. So again, that's more recent or shorter term form. And then I added in green regulation. So I don't know if you had a take on using that or fairways. I didn't really use fairways. I figure that's kind of irrelevant if they're not hitting as many drivers. But green regulation, I still like to use, especially on a second shot golf course like this.
Yeah, I prefer to use the weighted green regulation we have on the FantasyJesus stats. I know normally they line up pretty well with just the standard green regulation. I mean, obviously, if you're hitting more greens, you're probably beating the field anyway. But just, you never know what courses guys have played, so 70% isn't always the same for each golfer. So I like to use the weighted. I always sprinkle that in to the model low. And yeah, like you said, I will have off the tee weighted in the model. It just will be less than last week.
Yeah.
And I probably just won't pay attention to driving accuracy that much at all. I don't know if missing, like, obviously you still want to gain yards off the tee, or gain strokes off the tee, but I don't know if accuracy appears to be all that much more important than distance. It's really position. So, maybe you want to miss the fairway left because you have a better shot at the hole.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'll be at. Like you said, I always mix in birdies as well. That's the easiest way to get points on DraftKings. To outscore your position. So,
and it's a good way.
It sounds like
just real quick on like birdies too. Like you'll see guys that their stats look good and they're not making a ton of birdies. That's a good way to kind of differentiate your model a bit. So I know we use that. You could use weighted birdies or better as well in your model. So I feel like some of those tiebreakers, like strokes gained approach, okay, and some guys are all within like 0.4 of each other for the last 24 rounds or something like that. Throw in birdies or better, and all of a sudden you see some guys differentiate a bit. Maybe a Matsuyama stats look great, but he's not up there with a Xander Schauffele or something like that for a certain example. So I do think that helps weed out some of the stats if everyone's very, very similar, which, at this point in the season, a lot of these guys have played a lot, so it could certainly be that way.
Yep, and I'll use strokes gained putting too as a tiebreaker and I'll use season long. Like I won't look at
longer
too
term
recent for that because it's all noise. But you can still get an idea over. So our season stats on the sheet are the last 12 months. So it's not just this season. I always say season, but it's the last 12 months. So that's where I would look because. I'm sure it'll be another week where people play Ben An, and I'm not sure I will be waiting on his putting to come around. So, again, tiebreaker, maybe I will play him. I will have to talk myself into that. But, that's where I'm looking for stats.
I like it. Let's dive in, man. Let's try to hit through a lot of these high points in each of these price ranges. And, again, we'll have our live stream Wednesday night. It'll be me and Jacob, I think, on the schedule, so you can find that at twitch.tv/Redkacheek, and we go at about 9 p.m. So you'll be able to catch us on there and give our final thoughts and get some ideas for weather, ownership, all the good stuff. And a last reminder too, the Fantasy Golf Bag Listener League is open. Congrats to Gasboat1 from last week winning the 100-man and also taking home a Masters hat, which is pretty nice. So that is linked in the description below the video, wherever you're watching this, so you can go ahead and sign up. Join that on DraftKings and compete and try to have fun. It's a little 40-man this week, so we should be able to fill it up pretty quick. So I don't think I have too much else, man. Let's go ahead and dive in, and let's hit this top range.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, I think coming down just a little bit to the very low end is something I keep kind of leaning towards in a lot of my builds. And obviously in GPPs, you can pretty much make a case for any of these guys. Even as hard as it is to say, I guess you could make a case for Spieth, even though he gained like 12 strokes putting last week. But yeah, Xander Schauffele, 10K even. He has a miscut 48th here the last 2 years. If you looked at his form last week, he popped for a 16th place finish, lost strokes putting, approach looked good, off the tee looked fine. I can see him kind of getting around this golf course pretty well. At 10K, taking the savings off of a Justin Rose, $1,400 for a guy that's played it once, won it last year. He played it 10 years ago and never really had a good showing. John Rahm, I think, gets some popularity, but dude, 10K for Xander, I feel probably will go under the radar if guys are starting with a John Rahm, and I like that a ton.
Yeah, my top ranked guy in my overall model this week is actually Ricky Fowler, and not by a ton, but just overall game, I think among the guys up top, I think only Rose has played probably slightly better overall for the year, but not of recent. Mm-hmm. And I think Ricky had a pretty crappy Sunday. I wasn't really paying attention to his round Sunday since it was irrelevant to me, but the approach numbers are finally starting to come around for him over the last 20 rounds. I don't mind Xander either. He'd probably be second on my list, like you said, just for the savings. I can't. Yeah. So you already mentioned Spieth's 10. They said that was his best putting performance of his career. So yeah.
What's funny
I'm not going to run that one back.
What's funny is they term it the best putting performance, and then we all cringe. Like the difference between announcers and us playing DFS, or if you're golf betting or something, and like that was the best putting performance of his career or the last 2 years, and you're like, nope, not going there today.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe it springs him forward. I don't know.
He's been doing this a lot, man. Like
I'm not going to find out though.
Yeah,
at 10-9. Rahm is tempting because I've seen what he's done to this course. Rose won last year, but I think just for the money, I'd rather play Ricky at 10-5 and then Xander at 10 if I'm going above 10K this week. Now, if it comes out that Rahm's only going to be 8% owned, okay, I'll pivot immediately. But I don't think that he will be that low. I don't know. I try not to guess ownership too much on a Monday, but Ricky's my favorite of the top.
Yeah, I can get behind Ricky. I think, like, if I was trying to break this apart, like, say building two lineups, I would have a piece of Ricky, a piece of Xander. If Rahm's not, there's no way he's going to be under 10%. But let's just, for argument's sake, say he's like 10%. Maybe, yeah, I'll throw some shares to Rahm. But I think Ricky for cash it just looks too good. I think he's been playing the most consistent this year. And then Xander just has the upside. He shows up. Obviously, the last two finishes here, it looks like he doesn't fit the golf course well, but from what I'm weighing, man, I think he could have a good week. It's just a matter of getting the ball in play, I guess. So I'm down with the Ricky Fowler call. I'm with you there. So we can move down into the 9K range, which obviously a lot of heartbreak off of last week. So take it for what it's worth, I guess, with some of these guys missing the cut. But where are you looking in the 9K range?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to run back to Ian Poulter at 9.1K. I tempted fate by using him last week, even though he didn't really have the best course fit.
Doesn't he seem so expensive, though?
He does.
Like, with the guys around him? I mean, I understand form, too, but I just saw the price and was like, wow.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just going off my overall model for that one.
Well, I mean, the price is irrelevant when they finish well. Like, I was just pointing out it was like not a showstopper for me, but like I stopped in my tracks to see him at 9,100.
I'm sure I've played him there before in weaker fields. He's just the recent form outside of last week has still been pretty consistent. We only have 14 laser rounds on him, so the strokes gain stats might be a little small of a sample for me. So when I just look to my overall model, he's actually the highest rated of the 9K range recently. But overall, he's behind Finau and Molinari. I just don't want to pay $9,600 for Finau here. Molinari is the tempting one if I didn't use Ricky, or maybe I use both of them and then go way down. And
the field's so weak, you could probably get the same equity on a $7,200 guy versus a $6,600 guy.
But yeah, it feels like this would be a Molinari course, right? I mean,
I'm playing Molinari, man. He's my favorite in this range. If you look at his stats from last week, I mean, they lined up awesome ball striking. He could not putt. And he's going to Bent, if I have that correctly. And Poa is his worst surface, and obviously last week doesn't help very much. But Molinari, ball striking wise, position golf, man, I like him a ton this week. I mean, I could be starting lineups with him in some of these GPPs. And there's really not a lot to love in the mid-range, so I don't know why I would want to do that. But, yeah, I'm definitely going to have enough shares of Francesco to go around this week. Yeah,
the other one that's tempting, just the irons may have come back now, is Casey at 9,300. I know. I
mean, I like him more on this golf course than last week, and I'm glad that he got off to a decent start last week, but I'm with you to a certain degree. I think he's a better fit for this type of track than last week. And
I don't know. It's a weird group between Casey, Kisner, Poulter, and I'll even throw Louis in there at 9K. Like, I'm going to ignore Bryson for now. I'm still not going to. That's like Spieth. I'm not going to try to guess when he's coming back. I played him in one lineup last week against better judgment, but I figured, very low owned. I'll try it. Didn't work out. So I don't know. At 9,400, I'd much rather play any of the four below him.
Yeah. I'm looking at Casey now. Like, just looking at his stats, I was checking what his odds are to win. Because he gained a decent amount of strokes off the tee. He gained a good amount of strokes approach. Yeah, he's 28-1. So, I mean, like, it's not that bad to take a stab on versus playing him, but I kind of like him, I guess. He's just looking at last week. He gained 5.5 strokes off the tee, 3 strokes approach, and lost 3.5 strokes putting. And he's historically a better putter on bent. So, yeah, I can get behind Casey. He's got a top 10 2 years ago. That's actually, those two actually, just trying to think it through my head, 9,800 for a Molinari, and then taking Casey. It's not a bad way to start with 2 guys.
No, and I'm sure Kisner will be pretty popular this week. He was pretty vocal about how he didn't even stand a chance last week, plane tickets booked, yada, yada. So he's probably already been here, he's won here. This is the type of track he shows up on. So I think Kisner is going to be kind of a gut call on what I want to do there. Currently, I'm almost just going to eat it and maybe fade it and hope that, he doesn't have one of his better weeks. But I definitely wouldn't fault anybody for going to play Kisner this week.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I am.
Yeah, I probably won't, but I'm stubborn about him some weeks, man. Like, he definitely fits courses that he likes, and he just plays well there. And obviously,
it's not a Pete Dye course, which he normally tears. I guess if you want to look at design, but I don't know. I don't think he's a bad play. I think I'd rather too popular. I'd rather pivot to Casey or Poulter.
Yep, I'm with you there. All right, let's hit let's drop down to the 8K range, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts there. You got Kokrak there at 8,900, Sabatini 8,800, Grillo 8,700, and Scott Piercy 8,600. My favorite, just right off Kokrak I think is going to make at least a few of my lineups. He's I watched him play here last year on TV, not live, but coming in with a lot better form than he came into last year. He's never really popped for anything high, but again, he's been a different Kokrak this year. So I know you're not a huge fan of Kokrak because he's going to fall back at some point, but I can see him getting around this golf course well. His stats still look good last week. He lost strokes around the green, which I don't think is a concern at this track. Like, get the ball off the tee, get it on the green, and see if you can make some putts. So I do like Kokrak there. My favorite is definitely going to be Emiliano Grillo. I was pretty excited to play him last week. He's so cheap, and he sputtered a bit, but 23rd place finish at the PGA, ball striking full, 3rd place here last year. Grillo is probably my favorite in the high 8K range. Yeah,
so to start with Kokrak, I've bashed him a lot lately, and he's proven me wrong quite often this season. Even last week he played very well, and the consistency is, it's been long enough now where actually in my rating systems he's bumping himself up at a dramatic rate. Mm-hmm. I don't know, so I'm not going to say I'm afraid of him this week, but I don't know how many lineups he's going to find of mine. But I'm not going to bash him as much this week as I have been. Like, he's been proving me wrong. He's been proving my stat models wrong. So he's been working his way up in them now. I think 8,900 is tough for me to swallow still, just because I have that notion of what he is historically. But he hasn't been that. So at some point, the numbers aren't going to lie. He's been playing extremely well. Sabatini, similar story. I probably will end up playing one of those two in a lineup, but I think my favorite of this range is going to be Fitzpatrick. I will definitely play Fitzpatrick this week. It normally doesn't end well when you think the course fits Fitzpatrick very well. I played him last week, though, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. I think it was his second round. He was like 6 under.
Yeah, for all the courses that he fits at, I would not think Bethpage Black would be one of them.
Nope. And
he came in at probably 1%.
But he's played well at Augusta before, which I don't know. And then he misses the cut at his favorite course in the world, RBC Heritage. Mm-hmm. So
a little bit of weather there too.
Yeah, and he could have to deal with it. He's from England, though. He should deal with fucking weather.
You would think.
But yeah, I don't know. The approach numbers are good enough for me this week. 8,500. I think he's at least the same class of player as this group. So I prefer Fitzpatrick, and then probably Sabatini and Kokrak. I'm not going to go to the Grillo train.
No?
No, and he's normally a guy who I will take a shot on, but
Of all the guys ball striking wise, like I feel like I can rely on him week to week, even more than Kokrak to a degree. He can't putt
I mean,
at
Grillo
all.
can't putt, Kokrak can't putt.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
Sabatini can't. None of them actually, except for Fitzpatrick. Well, I guess Piercy's been okay this.
he's streaky.
Yeah, historically, no. I don't know. That I'm leaning with the overall model here again, and that's what boosts Fitzpatrick up above Grillo for me as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to look into him. I mean,
I don't think it's a
week.
bad play. I don't think Grillo's a bad play because I think he has a high birdie rate too, if I remember correctly.
He does. He also has a high triple rate.
Yeah,
So
sure does.
Was he? I think it was actually here last year. Side note, real quick. Grillo, I think, hit a drive like 2 fairways over in this event, and it actually went down the creek with the current, and it ended up either like right next to the green or ended up back by the tee where he just teed off. Like it was something weird. He blew it 1 fairway over to another fairway, hit the cart path, ended up in the creek, and the current pushed his ball. Like I think it was back to the tee box. Like literally his drop was like 405 yards from the hole.
Good Lord.
Side note, it's irrelevant, but I think I remember those highlights. We'll have to check it on YouTube. Google that. Grillo Colonial, I guess. Fort Worth Invitational. I don't know. So going down to the low end, 8K, the low 8K range. I feel like you have a better group of names. Just from a name value, you got Billy Horschel there. Joel Damon's been playing good. Kevin Na, Brandt Snedeker. Brandt Snedeker's 7K, but I kind of lean Joel Damon over those guys. Billy Horschel, I'll probably have some shares of. Won't lie. There's not a lot to say about him. I think he's a better caliber of player than 8100 states. But yeah, Joel Damon, I'm gaining more and more respect for him. Like I'm not sure if he'll ever win on the PGA Tour. I hope he does at some point, but he's been vocal about he doesn't care about winning. He's just out here enjoying life, blah, blah, blah. But if you look through his results, man, he's been super consistent. So I really like Damon down there.
Yeah, he rates out the best for me as well. Him and Ches are similar in my overall model, but definitely recently it's Joel. So I don't know how much I'll have from this range because I do like enough guys up top where this could be the range that I just have to skip.
Yeah.
Depending on how low I really want to go, which this week doesn't seem like I want to. But yeah, definitely in this range, it would be Dahmen for me as well. And that honestly, I don't have a ton of interest in playing many more of these guys. I'd rather just skip into the high 7K range. I like a couple guys there more.
Let's hop down to the 7K range. Give me your thoughts here of what you're eyeballing.
So the first one that stood out was Ty Hatton, and I'm going to go down on this train all year apparently. But 7,800, I don't know. I think he's a better class of player than what's down here. He hasn't shown it lately though, so I'm probably going to eat my shoe on him, but I would definitely be using some Hatton. Snedeker caught my eye with what he played pretty well last week. 7,900. He's got the win narrative going for him, and same with Graham McDowell. And I know his strokes gained differentials boosted a little bit from the weak field he played in. He won Punta Cana or Corral. I don't remember which Puerto Rico. He won.
Who
Graham McDowell.
Punta Cana.
Yeah. So his strokes gained differentials boosted a little bit by that, but he's still been playing.
He's been playing good. He's been playing the shorter courses well also, I will note. Like RBC Heritage is one he tends to play well at. I can't recall if he's played any longer courses that he did great at. Maybe the one in Texas. Guys
where the stats aren't really the strokes gained individual stats really aren't showing much, but then you go look at his weighted birdie percentage and his 92nd percentile in the field, and that's over 20 rounds. So again, part of that is probably the weak fields, but this isn't the strongest field in the world. So I mean, I can get behind Graham, Brandt, Hatton, This course seems to fit Sung Jae Im, although he seems to have fallen off the face of the earth.
He's been playing bad.
Pat Perez has been playing pretty well, and he's 7,700. Like everybody's favorite Siwoo, 7,700. Like I think there's a lot of guys I could get behind in this range.
Yeah, I think for me, I can get behind Tyrrell Hatton. He was actually fairly impressive last week. I don't have his stats pulled up. Let me take a peek. Yeah, gained almost 4 strokes off the tee, gained a little bit on approach, and lost strokes putting. But he does seem like he doesn't belong in that price range. The other one down there, like Snedeker, it's tough for me to ever get behind. He's just so streaky. It's either a GPP run or
I don't play him much.
Yeah, there's really never like a Kokrak we bring up every week because his stats are lining up. His finishes look pretty good, but Snedeker's never, I don't think he's ever had that in his career where it's like, Snedeker's continuing to bust out top 20s, top 30s, and his stats keep looking good. So
he's a very good putter, and sometimes it
pops,
gets him a 59.
Yeah. I'm at it with a bogey on the first hole, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going back to Daniel Berger. I think, 7,600 for him. I played him last week. I played him the last couple weeks he's been playing, and it seems like he's like halfway there. Like he's making good runs the first 2 rounds and then just not making it through the weekend. It's got to turn around at some point. This field seems extremely weak for like his talent. 7,600. I mean, I played him at the PGA Championship. I'm definitely playing him in this field. So yeah, Daniel Berger. His course history, I think he's played here once 4 years ago and missed the cut, which was like a couple years out of college. But stats are looking like they're improving the right direction, but it's more or less a gut call on, is he going to kind of pop one of these weeks? Like I could genuinely see him winning one of these weeks and no one's going to be on him because he hasn't really had that, TV coverage or won someone a GBP or something like that. So he's coming around. I really like Daniel Berger kind of going through the rest of the season as long as he keeps being underpriced and underowned.
Yeah, I've played Berger a couple times this year. Unfortunately, I haven't really hit any of his better tournaments. He hasn't really
had a
much.
Better tournament, but he's
played him at Desert Classic. I think he might have been top 10 there.
Well, he's had some good starts.
He's been up and down, yeah.
Yeah, he's been very up and down, but like he's coming off a wrist injury. We saw him, was it the tournament in Louisiana or something, or he won it like back-to-back years. No.
Oh, he used to win. He wins at St. Jude.
St. Jude. So, like, we know what kind of player he is. Yeah. That's a tough golf course. So, and
he pops at the Travelers, too, I think, is the other one.
Yeah.
I think he lost to Spieth in that playoff when Spieth chipped in out of the bunker.
He was... I have to double-check real quick, because I think Berger on round 4... Is it round 4 or round 3? Yeah, so he lost 10 strokes total, round 3 and round 4 together. He gained 8 strokes round 1 and round 2 at the PGA. So he shot 82 on Sunday. That's why his showing looks so bad. But you go through his rounds, man, like even the week before, it looks like things are coming around. I mean, 82 at PGA, I'm not going to discount anything from the weather, the course, all that stuff. But still, like, he's showing me something. So I do like that quite a bit.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back closer to his long-term baseline that I have him at. Yeah, I see nothing wrong with that, and no one will probably play him. So
no,
pretty solid leverage on him, I'd imagine.
It's pretty cool. I just closed my window. There we go. All right, we're back. What the heck?
I have to imagine Benny Ann at 7,500 with his ball striking prowess is going to garner a lot of it. That is a weird price, is it not, for him? Like, I know he hasn't been, but 7,500 for as well as he's been hitting the ball does seem shocking. Like, it's probably something I'm going to fade and regret, but.
I mean, what's he? Because I actually have interest above and below him, but it seems wrong not to play him. Yeah.
Doesn't it, at that price? Yeah, like, I mean, It's weird because he gains strokes off the tee, he gains strokes on approach, he gains quite a few strokes around the green. He just quite literally cannot putt.
So what's the deal with his? What's the deal with his neck?
Probably be better swapping me onto the greens.
Possibly, yes.
Like, it's
anybody. What's the deal with his neck? I know he mentioned something about that last week. Is that anything at all?
I don't know the injury status because I really don't play him much either. Like, he's a guy that I typically avoid. But it did stand out that he is 7,500, and I think he opened at 100 to 1, a couple 365 maybe.
Yeah,
like it definitely stood out.
Yeah, I'm down with some. I mean, he's going to be in some lineups. It's just not going to be a.
I mean, I'm going to play way worse golfers than him this week. That's for sure. Like, I mean, I'm going to play. I don't know if I'll play him. I bet Brendan Grace at 100 to 1.
No, you got to play Russell Knox, dude. 7,400.
I'll definitely play Russell Knox. This course seems right up his alley, and he rates out very well for me in my overall model too.
Yep. Yeah, I'm down with that. Looking through like the lower, so like I guess just to kind of recap real quick. So you like a good number of the guys at the high end. I'm really leaning towards Berger. I can get behind Hatton a little bit, and then Ben On probably as a filler there, and Russell Knox to start the low 7K range. So like in the low 7s, there's really not a ton of guys at 7K, 7,100, 7,200 that we normally see on these weaker fields. I think they just kind of bunched a bunch down at the like the mid 6s. But any that stand out to you, I again, like the field's weaker, but like once you get through the 8K range, the high 8s, I feel like there's some decent guys down here where, I mean, you got Matt Jones has been playing really well. Not going to go back to Danny Lee, who may have been second most strokes gained putting versus Spieth last week. But like Corey Connors finished 8th last year. I was
just going to mention Connors. He's like basically what Kokrak has been his whole career, just awful around and on the green. I mean, his numbers are similar too. If Kokrak was 7,200, zero problem playing him. I'll probably play Corey Connors, 7,200. Brian Stewart rates out overall pretty well in my overall model. For his recent form is carrying him. His baseline is awful, so that is slightly worrisome. But the recent form is definitely there for Stewart at 7,100. There's not a ton. Like Corey Connors' approach numbers just really stand out down here. Like you mentioned Matt Jones, I just don't know if he gains a lot of strokes off the tee, so I don't know how, like, if that will hurt him by not being able to run away from the field doing that this week.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sometimes overall, I just play guys who are playing well when you start getting down here, whether they may fit the course exactly or not. I mean,
well, like this course doesn't seem like I think there's some course history included when you look through some of these guys, but like for the most part, when you talk about like an old traditional golf course, there's really never one way to play it. So like you see guys we'll just use Ryan Palmer, and he's probably a terrible example for any event, but he's got like 3 top 5s in the last 6 years, and then 2 missed cuts, a dead last after the cut, and a 14th. Like there's really no rhyme or reason for many of these guys popping. So just looking at recent form coming in here, I think is probably going to be my primary indicator.
Are you telling me that course history may be overrated from time to time?
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean,
I'm fully on board. Like, I look at the course history because obviously you like to see guys playing well, but at the end of the day, there's a lot that was going on that you don't account for before and after that tournament. So.
Correct. Which kind of falls in line with a lot of that stuff.
Even course fit too. Yeah. I think course fit is more important than course history.
Right, and course history doesn't mean course fit either.
I haven't been able to quantify exactly how much, but just with a guy like we were talking about, Matt Jones, like he just does so much better off the tee that even though he's been playing well, it does worry me a little bit because he did pique my interest, but I don't know if I'm going to go there this week.
Okay. Yeah, I still got to take some stabs, man. Guy's playing good.
Yeah.
I'll ride it out.
I mean,
Corey Connors still scares me. That'd be my last thought on him.
Oh, he's bad. He's bad around and on the green. It's
just like you compared him to Kokrak, and I feel like he's spotty. Like if you look at through some of his stats and his results.
I mean, historically, that's how Kokrak gets on like 3 tournament runs, and all of a sudden he's back to 50th place for 4 or 5 straight weeks.
Well, we got a new Kokrak. We have a new Brooks. Could have said that about Brooks 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Over on the European Tour. He'd been like the Julian Surrey of European Tour golf. So, I don't know. We'll see what we'll see what happens with Kokrak going forward. Yeah, up in the lower 7K range, there's really not a lot else for me. Like Brian Stewart, I can get behind for sure. That's pretty much it, man. I think Matt Jones, and that's probably it. Did we look at Vegas from last week? I know we.
Again, he's another guy who caught my eye. It was just how he does it with the off the tee game. However, again, in my overall model, he still rated out well. He's not awful on approach. He's just above 50th percentile. So yeah, I think Johnny Vegas could find his way into a lineup. 7,300.
Yeah, and just like when you start thinking through some of these fields where guys like we're looking at Johnny. I mean, he was 8,200 2 weeks ago or something like that, and people were excited to play him at that price at the what the heck was that? Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And now, 2 weeks later, he'll be underowned, and he's not that far removed from good play. So it's not like one of those you try to land on you feel great about, but I try to keep in mind guys that maybe have just all of a sudden fallen under the radar. Like that, I was looking at Furyk earlier for the same reason, and just recent form doesn't look like it's there. There's enough reason not to play him than there is to play him. So I do like looking at guys that maybe like 2 weeks ago were the guy to play, and now all of a sudden, he's an afterthought. So
we have Boo Weekley in the field again.
No thanks, pass.
Way down there. No, I know. It below this is just not much for me. I thought there'd be a couple more guys down here that I could maybe. I mean, it's only 4 rounds, but Doug Gim played very well at Byron Nelson. Yeah. But again, it's 4 rounds. Like I don't know how it depends on how you view how much you put into stock that recent of form or that small of a sample. But he did play very well there, Texas kid. I know you've been on Schenk in the past. He's 6,500 approach numbers still look solid. Like there's some guys you could roll the dice on down here, but I think it gets pretty sketchy.
Yeah, the one that's intriguing. I'm kind of curious now just looking at him, but Taylor Gooch at 6,700 coming back from, was it a wrist injury I think he had back at the Players? I think he had to withdraw, or he finished and then withdrew from the next event. But, I mean, talking about strokes gained approach, he's the guy that was leading the tour through like 4 or 5 events to start the West Coast swing. So he might get some attention. Like I might throw him in a lineup in the $5 or the bigger GPP, just take a stab on it. And then Patton Kizzire, 6,700, man. Call me crazy.
You are crazy.
Thank you. I'm kind of interested in him, man. I was thinking he would be bombed out last week at the Bethpage Black for a course that probably needs to hit it. He actually started off pretty well. Again, it was a guy like Berger to a certain extent where you kind of watch the first 2 rounds. Like the end result is the end result, but if you can dissect it a bit more, you maybe can see some trends. This is a course you don't have to hit a ton of drivers, and he's notoriously bad. I'm tempted to throw him into one of these tournaments coming up. So like this one probably is the best shot for him to get it around without causing too much damage. So, he's not.
He doesn't do it for me on a week-to-week basis, though. So I mean, if you're going to play him, like you said, this would be the week. He's so reliant on around the green and putting. It just always scares me.
Yep, I agree. So the 2 that I have highlighted besides them is Von Taylor, 6,700. And then I have just below, where'd he go? Nope, just below him, Denny McCarthy, 6,600. So those 2 there are probably, I don't think Denny's played this event, but he's coming in with pretty good form. Birdie or better is looking pretty good. I think he's 24th in this field for me. And actually decent form coming in. So, yeah, Denny McCarthy, 6,600 is someone I'm interested in. And then Von Taylor, if you want to talk about a guy that tends to play good with the irons week to week, it would be him. And he's coming in with 2 top 20s at this course the last 2 years. Coming in with 2 top 20s with his recent form as well. So I think his kind of converging into a decent showing here for 6,700, I'll definitely take some stabs.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think looking at it now, but a majority of my lineups are going to be built 7K and up. Wow. And I just realized I just was staring at this number. Martin Kaymer, 7K. I don't know. That just randomly stuck out that Martin Kaymer is in this field and he's $7,000.
Yeah, dude. He's been so far, like, most people probably don't realize he won a major.
He won 2, didn't he?
Yeah, you may have. He won it was like
right
through like that.
PGA and a U.S. Open.
He definitely won the PGA because I think he beat DJ during that one.
He took a U.S. Open, but I could be wrong. That was a little before I was super paying attention to everything going on.
It was before DFS anyways, but yeah, I think that was like right after the big Padraig Harrington. Like, dude, Padraig Harrington pulled a Brooks Koepka before Brooks Koepka was Koepka.
Yeah, he went on a tear there. He won
3 in 2 years.
Michigan. Yeah.
And he was like the guy. Like all of a sudden, yeah, he was beating Tiger and beating everybody. And
Kaymer did win a U.S. Open, 2014.
Pinehurst.
I had to check.
Pinehurst, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, crazy, 7K, and he's not that old. Like, I don't know. He's been over. I mean, I've seen him. I follow him enough because of the European Tour stuff. You know, you catch a guy here and there, but I mean, he's only 34.
He's been trying.
Talk about I mean, when he peaked though, he peaked. I mean, he was crushing it.
Well, what happened though is he tried changing his swing to fit Augusta because everyone. So once you win 2 majors, all of a sudden they're like, well, I mean, you can win the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, he always hit a fade, and most of the guys that play well at Augusta hit a draw or right to left. So he went to change his shot shape right to left and just complete, like, I think he was like close to like 800th in the world. He went from top 5, winning 2 majors in 2 years, something like that, to he wasn't even had tour status. He had no tour status. Unreal. People.
And he was crushing. Like, he won the U.S. Open by 8 strokes. Like, he won the WGC by 3, won Abu Dhabi by 8. I mean, I remember
he was the guy.
I've gone through back then. And he just peaked and he just crushed it for that period. And then, like you said, just done.
Yeah, idiots. Same with a lot of these guys, man. We could have a whole show on this. You got Mickelson still hanging in there, but back in the day, it was the big 3. It was Ernie Els, Phil, and Tiger. And there's one guy. I mean, besides Tiger's injury, there's one guy that you feel like is ready for the Champions Tour, and that's Ernie Els. Like, Phil doesn't seem like he's ready for the Champions Tour.
No, I was looking through a bunch of my old ratings and going way back and just back when in Tiger's heyday, and the guys in second a lot were like Steve Stricker and Furyk and Phil. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a little different back then.
Yeah, DFS would have been fun.
Yeah. Well, that was, you would have had 15K, Jordan Spieth, and you would have had a 5K, Davis Love III or something stupid. Tim Herron.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fun little rant there. Yeah, that just really just caught my eye out of nowhere. Martin Kaymer. Wow.
We should do a reminiscent pod one day. Just talk about all the good times and how it's
go
better.
through the field and be like, I didn't realize he was in here.
Yeah, God.
He has accomplishments.
You don't know about this guy,
right?
But Mike Weir won the Masters.
Yeah, if you're new to DFS in the last year or two, you don't know who this is. But
oh man,
wow!
All right, let's get the people out of here, man.
Yep.
Any final thoughts, or if not, I'll go ahead and close this thing. Again, it's Charles Schwab Challenge. I don't know. Maybe they can work on the name for next year. So
give me the irons.
Iron guys, I like it. So Kokrak is in your main lineup. Digging it.
He might. Maybe not the main. But I have conceded he has bested me.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you doing the show as always. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast. You can find the rolling stats that Axis was referring to, along with all the European Tour stats bunched together, giving you a good reference point for guys that are coming overseas. We had it last week for the PGA. Guys like Van Rooyen, Matt Wallace popping for top 5s or top 10s there. So really good stuff. You can check that out at fantasygolfbag.com. And of course, I'll be back with Jacob on Wednesday night for the live stream, and that will be at twitch.tv/Redkacheek. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and have fun this week. Build some good lineups, and hopefully we see some screenshots come Sunday night. Take care.